Hi, welcome to Pink Sparkly Style. My name's Heather. Usually I do unboxings or shopping hauls. Today I'm going to get more serious. I'm going to talk about what I went through with my son, what to expect the beginning days when you find out your child has cancer, and when you probably end up in the hospital, as we did. I'm sure if you're watching this, your world is just like spinning. You just don't know what to think. You're in shock. You're upset. And I just kind of want to tell you what you're going to be going through as you are at the hospital. The road ahead is going to be hard one, but it's not a hopeless one, and I promise you it will get better. This too shall pass. I guess I'll start from the beginning. My son Kyler, he started to complain that his legs were hurting. That always happened whenever he started to grow, so I didn't think anything of it. About a week went by and he still was complaining. I took him to the doctor, and one thing they said was that his white blood cell count was messed up. They said it's probably just he had a little virus, something like that. If you want to come back in a week, we can check on it. And he's got low vitamin D, just like I have, which could give him some leg pain. So I started him on some vitamin D, and I brought him back in a week. When I brought him back in a week, I knew there was a problem. My ringer was off, and the phone just kept ringing and ringing with the doctor. I called the doctor back, and she said, "I'm sorry to tell you, but we believe your son has leukemia. You need to get to the hospital right now. They need to put a port in. They need to start chemotherapy." And I was just like in shock. That was May 27th, 2020. I will never forget it. It's almost been a year now, but it was so traumatizing, and I just didn't know what to do. He had... the type of leukemia he has is the B cell, the BALL, which is the good leukemia, if you want to say that. It has a higher survival rate of about 90% survival rate. It is a long road because it is 2.5 years of chemo. So we're close to a year now of chemotherapy, but it will be 2.5 years of chemo, and he's high risk because if you get it after the age of 10, it's a high reoccurrence of it happening again in the future. But I don't want to think that way. I think he's going to be cured. We're just got to get through this next year and a half. The type of cancer, leukemia, is actually a cancer in the blood and the bone marrow. And when he went to the hospital, I'll talk more, but they ended up doing a port. They have to put a port in most children who are going to do chemo. Usually they put you to sleep and they put it's like a little bump under the skin here that goes into the heart. His was put down below his ribs over here. I don't know why, but that would be put in pretty quickly. And because of his chemo, he had to get a spinal tap and bone marrow, which they had to dig pretty deep. The spinal tap's at the bottom of your, like down the bottom of your back. And then he had to do a bone marrow, which they have to stick something in either side of his back and kind of dig around. So that was pretty painful. Unfortunately, we had some experiences with cancer. My husband, their father, actually died of colon cancer. It was advanced when we found out that he had colon cancer. Leukemia is not a genetic thing. They don't know why he gets it, so it was kind of shocking to have it happen to two people in one family, but it did. When you get to the hospital, it's going to be super busy. There's going to be lots of people there, people in and out of your room. I swear, in the beginning, they're there every 15 minutes to a half an hour. It is a bit overwhelming. You will have doctors, nurses, people who are studying to be doctors, specialists. You'll have the food staff come in and out. I mean, it's constant. So that is a little bit stressful. I will tell you so you can brace yourself. They had to act very fast for my son's cancer. I felt safe. He was part of a children's oncology group. I will link that below. And you can look at that website to see if you have one in your area, because they specialize in children's cancer, which is different than adult cancer. Also, one of the doctors that works with my child, they kind of rotate. There's about 4 of them. Also worked at St. Jude, so I felt pretty safe with the staff. If you have time, you could get a second opinion to make sure that this is correct. But with mine, they had to act very, very quickly. The hardest thing really was having to tell him that he had it. It was really hard because he knew what his father had gone through. So I had to explain, it is cancer. It's different from your father. It's very treatable. You will get through this. And so he had some questions. He got upset. But overall, he tried to stay positive. Actually, it's a funny story. When I tried to, funny, not funny, when I tried to tell him that he had cancer, I was trying to explain it, and the kitchen staff came in. Now they have to know your child's name and date of birth. every time. I didn't know this, but they came in and I was like, just set the tray over there. And I kept trying to talk to him about cancer. And the guy kept trying to ask me questions. I was like, please just sit it over there. And then finally I was like, I'm trying to tell my child he's got cancer. Can you please just put the tray over there? Because like I said, there will be people in and out constantly. So he did try to stay pretty positive. The doctors told him, they said, and this is something you should tell your child, it's not your fault. It's okay for you to be angry. It's okay for you to be upset. It's okay for you to be mad. And it's the same thing for you. It's okay. It's okay to have these natural reactions. Kyler, though, is always very upbeat. He likes SpongeBob, and he reminds me of SpongeBob, very upbeat. And he was like, why am I going to be upset? I got cancer. I just got to deal with it. But later time, as he started to sink in, he started to get more quiet. He's always been very social. He got less and less sociable. The nurses would ask him questions. He wouldn't talk to them, things that he had never, ever done before. But in the beginning, he did try to stay optimistic, but just keep repeating it to them, that it's not their fault. Because children do internalize and think, maybe there's a reason for this. Maybe there's a reason that this happened to me. And just tell them it's not their fault. So he did stay pretty quiet. He had a lot of pain the next day after they did the port surgery. I did not want to tell him all the details yet when I first got there because I was learning them myself. But I didn't want to scare him with the port surgery. I know at first that broke my heart because he was like, oh, well, maybe this is kind of like a vacation. We're in the hospital and they bring us food. But I kind of went into depth more after the port surgery. I told him that he had to have the port surgery, explained what it was, and that they needed it to put the medicine into his body. If you have time to pack, try to pack quickly. They told me to hurry up and get down to the hospital, but I ended up being there for 5 days. I would suggest packing a lot of things that you need: clothes, clothes, toiletries, anything you need on your bed. The child won't need a whole lot. They'll need like underwear and socks, but I would bring them a lot of things for comfort, like their special blanket or a special stuffed animal. I would bring toys. If they play on electronics, I'd bring that with the plugs, because you want to keep them busy and occupied on something more positive. Now, I was there during COVID, and if you're there during COVID, a lot of hospitals, they only want maybe one parent. Now, like I said, my husband, their father had passed of cancer, so I was the only parent. But if it is one parent, I suggest you take turns. You're going to need chance mentally to get it together. You don't want to break down in front of them. So I would take time for yourself to go home. But I would pack quite a few things. Now, the food was a problem during COVID as well. The snack machines were closed down. The cafeteria was only open to hospital staff, so you could not get food. Now, the patient will get food, and you can call. They ask them for a menu right away. The children's food, you can order the whole day in advance. I would order a lot of extra things and a lot of different things. They're probably going to be nauseous. They're probably not going to want to eat a lot of foods. I would order extra things. I would also order things like Gatorade, crackers, fruit, things like that you could store in the room, because you're not going to have a lot of opportunity to get food. Now, I was able to get a guest tray, but you have to call right before the tray each time. So during all these people coming in and out, you need to remember to call. My guest tray was just a set tray. I had no choices. So my son was very nauseous, so I was able to order different things through him and keep it in the refrigerator for if he needed it later, or for me. But really, they start getting disgusted by a lot of foods. He had a lot of cravings. He started to crave things like a Slurpee or a hamburger, chicken nuggets, different like spicy chips. He started going through a spicy phase. So if you have a spouse or a friend or somebody that's willing to help, some of my friends would drop off food at the front door. I'd go down and pick it up and bring it up to our room so that they can bring you some things, and they can bring your child whatever they're craving, because trust me, they're going to be nauseous and they're going to only be into certain types of foods. So definitely stock up. Dinner was at 5 p.m. Now, I'm a night owl. That was really hard, and they brought breakfast super early, like 7 or 8 a.m. So you're going to need a stockpile of some food. Maybe you could pack snacks if you're packing right now to go to the hospital. But I would also get your friends, if they start asking for things, if they could bring stuff up to the hospital. And also, if they could bring dinners to, if you have a spouse or children at home, That would be helpful to bring them food, or even to bring dinners when you get home from the hospital, because you're going to be going through a lot of stress and a lot of things going on. So I would ask your friends. That would be a one thing. If people say, what can I do for you? I would say to do that. Also, you could tell them to bring little gifts that you maybe drop by the front door to pick up for your child to entertain them. I would definitely make sure that you are taking notes, because you're going to get all this information and it's kind of in one ear, out the other. You're so stressed, you can't remember it all. Take notes. I did it on my phone. Just take some notes. Always write down questions as you go along, so the next time the doctor comes in, you will know what to ask. Do not investigate this too thorough online, because you're going to really start to scare yourself. You can look at it, more detailed later, but just try to take care of you, take care of your child. Listen to what they're saying, ask questions. Try not to get too overwhelmed. Like I said, I was a night owl. I suggest you're going to be very sleepy, with people being in and out of your room every 15 minutes to a half an hour. If you can, you and your child might want to take a nap, maybe after dinner, the 5 o'clock dinner, or go to bed early. Now, I was actually lucky during COVID, because I heard when it wasn't COVID, they would put 2 children in the room in beds, and the parents would have like a little reclining chair. And I think that'd be difficult. Let's say if you had a baby and an older child in the room, or if your time schedules were different. So I hope for your sake that you have your own room. But it is possible they could room you with somebody, and hopefully it'll be someone with similar time schedule. I couldn't imagine me being a night owl and someone getting up like early in the morning, turning on the TV. My hospital had a gift shop. If you want to go downstairs and get your child a little something special, maybe when they go and get the port surgery, so you can bring a little stuffed animal or a balloon or something up for when they get back upstairs. Now, once they have the port, like I said, it'll be here or here. That's how they're going to inject chemotherapy, and they're going to also flush it with saline to kind of clean it through. Saline, unfortunately, it depends. Some people don't react. My husband, when they flushed it, said it would taste like skunk in his mouth. So you might want to pick up some mints right away. If you are on Amazon, I will link this below. I would go ahead and order this. This is a migraine stick. It looks like this, and I will link it below. But like I said, my husband, when he went through it, he tasted skunk when they flushed the saline. My son smells it in his nose like skunk. So you just unscrew this, and he's in hell, and it smells like peppermint, really strong peppermint. So it helps them not to be so, stressed out during the saline, and you can bring this with you every time you do chemotherapy. Just leave it in your purse or wherever. And if you get stressed out, you can actually rub on your temples and stuff. It's for migraines, but it will help with the flushing when they do the port flushing. I also would advise you to make a schedule on your phone. Ask the doctors and nurses, when can my child have another dose of something for pain or for nausea? Those are the 2 major ones when they started the chemo. Now for pain, unfortunately, the only thing they offered was Tylenol. So I would try to get on a schedule with their phone, setting it a little bit before it's due, and asking your child, how do they feel? Because it's better to stay on top of it pain-wise than to let it go. Now, they will give you all these medications like chemo, but as far as your headache or your tummy medicines, you need to be on top of that. So I would set a timer and be on top of that. Now, once we got home for chemo, my son is 12. He was 11, he was 11 going on 12 when he was diagnosed. Unfortunately, children that age, they feel like they're not in control of anything. So for him, he doesn't want stuff for headache or stomachache. He says it's extra medicine. I say it's going to fix you. It breaks my heart as a parent, because you want to fix things when they don't feel well. But he pretty much refuses. Now, I have once or twice put his tummy medicine in with his chemo, but he usually busts me. But while they're in the hospital, try to stay on top of that. Hopefully when they go home, you could also stay on a schedule of that to kind of help with the headaches and to help with the nausea. He really won't do it unless it's like an absolute emergency. And right now, most nights he is throwing up a little bit. He says he's getting used to it. But he doesn't even wake me up. He just says he throws up a little bit. But hopefully your child will take medication. Another weird thing when you go to the hospital that I didn't experience with my husband when he went through cancer treatment, but now they're realizing that with the toilet, they need to cover it. They'll probably put a blanket over it. The child will have to flush twice after they do chemo, because apparently some of the chemo can kind of go up into the air and around the toilet, and it's not good for you. Now, you may ask your friends if they say, what can I do to help? If you know someone that has a cleaning service or willing to help clean, you might want to see if someone can help every time, like 2 days after they do chemo. You need to clean down the toilet and everything so that other people can use it. I don't know. They didn't do that with my husband, so I haven't been as worried, but they are more worried about that. They probably will do that in the hospital, and you will need to do that when you get home. There's probably a child life specialist there. Ask for them, or I'm sure they'll come by. But usually they have puzzles. My child was into Star Wars, so they gave us some free Star Wars puzzles. They probably have puzzles, games, crafts, things to keep them busy. So if your child's into that, I would talk to the child life specialist so that you can do puzzles or games or crafts while you're there. I did something fun when he got back from the hospital, but he had such a headache, he didn't really appreciate it. But you can tell your neighbors to have signs when you drive into the neighborhood and warn them that you're coming home. I did like a welcome home or we missed you signs. So a couple of the neighbors did that when we came home, but at that point he didn't appreciate it. I did do a second thing, which was a car parade, kind of like a we love you, we miss you, get well soon car parade. I got some people from my church, his school, friends, all different people. Now, you might want to wait a couple days to a week to see how your child's doing, like what time of day does he or she feel best, when would be the best time to do it. Mine was also in May. It was kind of hot, so we had to set up fans, and we had to get like a tent to put him under it. So I guess you have to check with the weather, and like I said, the time of day that's best for him. But it was really nice to have all these people with signs and honking and people yelling out to him and stuff, just to let him know that he is loved. Now, he had the initial hospital stay. Each cancer is different. They kind of step you as you go. You don't know everything at once. So we did have to stay in the hospital 4 more times for about 5 days each. It was every other week. That was all around, I believe it was October and November. So I wanted to do something fun. So if you are going to have to do a repeat visit, or you're going to be there for a long time, I would ask friends and family to send to your house gifts or cards. Now, I did a theme. The first 2 hospital stays were Halloween, and the next 2 were Christmas. It wasn't quite Halloween or Christmas, but we love the holidays. You could theme it out for something else your child's into, maybe superheroes. And I just really decorated up the room. I got clings for the window. I had the presents that people gave. They were wrapped so he could open a present whenever he started to feel bad. I brought videos for Christmas. I brought some cookies and cocoa and DVDs. So you might want to think of doing something to make them look forward to it, because they're not going to want to be in the hospital. Something fun, maybe themed, if you are forced to go back or you are stuck there for a long period of time. I would suggest that. I would just say try to keep things as normal as possible. You are going to feel upset. You are going to break down. You may want to step out of the room for a minute. Make sure your child knows that they can ask you any questions. Try to speak it to their level about what's going on. In the future, and as they start the chemo there, I'm not going to lie, they're not going to feel well. Where he had the port, where he had the spinal tap, and the bone marrow, they really dug around in there. He was in extreme pain. So they are going to be in pain. They are going to feel probably nauseous, headache. Later on down the line, they could get mouth sores. You can talk to your doctor about how to prevent that. But they are going to experience some things like this. I'm not going to lie, it's a hard road, but it's not hopeless. I promise you, it will get better. This too shall pass. Imagine all the things in your life, some negative things, and you got through it. You guys are going to get through this. It's going to be okay. I will tell you though, after the 5 hospital stays, one more thing. This was rare, but PEG asparaginase, PEG, it's a type of drug. He had an allergic reaction. Unfortunately, we had to do Edwina asparaginase, which is extremely expensive and hard to come by, but we had to do that because he was allergic. So for 2 months, pretty much 3 days a week, he had to go do chemo. In general, though, we went once a week for chemo. Every couple visits or whatever, they do a spinal tap where they put them to sleep and they do a spinal tap. They kind of take fluids out to look at it and put chemo in. He started to get used to it. He actually said he likes the sleepy stuff, which makes me worried, but he says it made him feel funny. So he had to do that, but he is now in maintenance. Now maintenance for the next year and a half, he will take chemo pills every day. Thursday he has to do an extra one, which is actually 13 little chemo pills. But he does it every day, and he only has to go to the doctor 1 time a month. And every couple times he will do a spinal tap with that. So it's slowing down. It's getting better. It's not over, but his hair is starting to grow back in. He's starting to get more social. He kind of backed off. I think his friends backed off. They didn't know how to deal with cancer with a child. And he used to run and play all the time. You can't do so much sports stuff with a port. But he is getting out there, getting more social. He's starting to feel a little bit better. So I promise you, it will get better. I want you to stay positive, and I would love for you to subscribe below. Let me know if you want to make more videos like this. Like and comment. If you comment, I will try to answer all your questions. Hopefully other parents will also comment on here to give other people hope. And I'm just sending you all love. Bye, my sparkly friends.